if procrastination isn't laziness? What if it's actually your intuition telling you this isn't aligned? And let's go deeper. What if the reason you feel stuck is because you're making decisions from pressure and not from truth? Today's conversation is going to challenge how we think about intuition, success, and even spirituality. Because we're not talking about escaping reality here. We're talking about learning how to read yourself so you can actually lead your life.
Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Mindset Mastery Moments. I'm your host, of course, Dr. Alisa, the number one mindset disruptor. And this is where we shift how you think so you can shift how you live, lead, and win. Today, we're stepping into a conversation that most people either over spiritualize or they completely ignore. And that's your intuition. Not the fluffy version, but the version that and also not the version that we just follow with your heart and go with the flow either, but how your intuition actually shows up in your decision, your business, your relationships. And why ignoring it may be the very reason you feel stuck. Today, I am joined by Lena Milosevic, a holistic health practitioner, mentor, and global citizen who has spent over 15 years helping people reconnect to their true nature through energy work, meditation, breath work, intuitive development. She's lived across the world. She's my kind of gal, from Germany to Brazil, Australia, the USA, and now Italy, bringing a unique blend of analytical thinking, deep spirituality, and real-life application. She is also the creator of Intuition on Demand, a framework that helps people access their inner guidance in real time. And not just when life is calm, but when decisions actually matter. Lena, welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments. I'm excited to have this conversation because I know I'm going to learn a lot and experience a lot of shifts. Tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Hello, Alisa. Thank you. What a wonderful intro you've given me. Right. So, yeah, I'm a coach. I'm a spiritual healer. And originally, my background is business. That's what I studied at uni, right? And then life took me into different directions, and I came onto this path, right? And so what I do today, over the years, what my work has developed into, I work with people, mainly with women, who are at that point that are either a bit in a transition or a bit lost in life, or just, with that feeling where you can't quite put the finger on it, that something's just off and you don't really know it. Maybe your body is giving you some signs. Maybe there's some vague sense of dissatisfaction that, the question that often comes up for people in midlife or around important transitions in their lives. So I help those people come back to what's really true for them. Like, where do they really want to go? What do I really want to do with my life? That. And I hold spaces for that, either in one-on-one settings, on retreats, and I also run a women's festival where that is supported. It's one of the goals.
Yes. I saw that, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later. Your title flow. What is it called? I want to make sure I say it correctly.
Yeah, it's Tidal Flow Women's Festival.
Yeah, it just seems like a joyous, liberating experience. So I can't wait for us to talk about it. But let's go into when people hear intuition, we're either leaning in all the way or we're completely checked out. When we say intuition on demand, what are you really talking about? And I would love for you to define that for us.
Yeah. So I'll start by defining what it not is, what people normally do with intuition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Intuition has this. So I work with two kinds of people, or those that are really, that consider themselves really intuitive, because I was going to say that are really intuitive, but that's not true. Everybody's intuitive. Everybody has intuition. Just many of us have been taught that it's not real. And it starts with little things. When in childhood, like children are very connected to their intuition. For them, it's fluid. Like, is this intuitive? Is somebody telling me so? And then you are told, now you're just making it up.
Mm.
And, for a child, well, in our culture at least, making it up means it's not true. Like you're lying. And lying is bad. So you
Right.
don't do it, right? You stop
Exactly.
it. That's how
Turn it
intuition is
off.
usually. Yeah, you turn it off because, this is mom and dad or usually some sort of authority figure telling you this. You believe it because that's how you build your world. That's how you live, right? You trust those figures and you follow them, which is a good thing most of the
Right.
time. Right? It's like, don't touch that. It's normally quite a useful thing.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
having that repeated all over again, over and over, it really sets in. So that's the sort of people that sort of don't consider themselves intuitive. They go for ratio, they go for analytics and really construct the way of living around that. And then there's those that consider themselves really intuitive, but they, as you mentioned, they go into the fluff, right? The fluff, and it's this waiting around, and when intuition strikes, and sometimes it's, my gut is telling me this and that, and they just follow that blindly without that fine distinction, because especially if it's gut feeling or my body is telling me, there is a way that intuition speaks through the body, but very often fear also speaks to the body. And it's not, I don't want to say it's not that easy, but it's a distinction to make. Yeah, you can learn how to
Uh-huh.
distinguish that.
Uh,
And then also people that consider themselves intuitive, I have noticed this tendency to really sit around and wait for intuition to strike, which isn't very
mm,
functional when you need to sort of do things in life and get on. And you
right.
can't just spend your life sitting around and waiting. So that's why I really work with intuition on demand, which is a series of practices. Well, a series, you can just pick one and the one that works best for
For
you, right?
you, but you have a
And then
series.
it's really a system, it's a structure where
Mm.
you can tune into your intuition on demand and just ask
Mm.
questions that get answers. And then
Yes.
if you choose to live by it, that's, yeah.
I'm excited to unwrap that. When I saw your work, I was like, okay, so this is not the normal, like I said, fluff. That's literally what came to mind. This
Mhm.
is, how should I say? I don't want to say it's much deeper because that makes it complex in some form. It's really a lot more simple than we think. And that's just from my looking at your work and listening to you a little bit. But let's go in. So, how is intuition actually different from emotion or impulse? Because, like you said, there's that emotion of fear, the emotion of doubt. And then when I speak in my mindset work, I talk about you feeling that and that becoming the sometimes it's imposter syndrome that's you're experiencing in the form of fear. And you're like, yeah, my mind just told me not to talk to her. And so I didn't. I felt, how do we juggle that? Because yeah, how is emotion so different from from impulse and actual real intuition that you talk about?
Look, emotions are often driven by thoughts that we are thinking because we have an experience, right, of life. And then what happens in our subconscious mind, really, it immediately starts commenting. Like there's a running commentary in our heads. And most of the
A
time we don't
film for some
realize
of
it,
us.
right? Like it's just running because that's our normal, it's our default.
Yes.
This is what,
Yeah.
it's formed by our beliefs, by our life experiences, which then shape our beliefs. And we have this running commentary and we are not aware of it. We are not aware it's
Hmm.
not real, but that it is a commentary.
That's all it
And
is. You're the person
that
listening to.
creates emotions.
Yeah.
And then the emotions feed back into those same thoughts. Like it's a running loop that it sort of auto nourishes itself, right?
Yes.
It's like a vicious
Yes.
cycle if it's
Call it
something
the
that is not
hamster wheel.
helpful, right? It can also be virtual. We have thoughts that we think that are actually really helpful and emotions that are helpful. But
Yes.
it's a running commentary. So we go into these automatic responses that we then
Mm.
we listen to it and we act and we speak in a certain way because of it without
Mm-hmm.
realizing that then that leads to a series of same experiences. You know, when you ask yourself, you sit
Self-fulfilling
there, why is this
prophecies.
happening again? And you can't quite figure it out. And then you make it mean that, that's just life for you, or this is just my experience and it'll always be that way. But it
Yes.
is these automatic responses that we have
Mm-hmm.
based on what we are thinking and feeling all the time. And this is why this intuitive work is so powerful, because it gives you an alternative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes what I've seen with people, sometimes that can be a bit scary because it's new, it's uncomfortable, because anything you change is uncomfortable because it's new, right? It's sort of
Yeah.
intrinsic. There's this little bit of discomfort. And so
Wow.
did I answer your question? I think
Yes.
I went
And
on.
you said, yeah, no, you give us exactly what we needed to hear. But you also mentioned that intuition is something we all have. Now,
Yeah,
are we born with it, or is it something we were born with, but we have to train in order for it to serve us in the way we would like to go?
we are born with it.
Right.
I was going to say this is what I firmly believe, but it's also like the premise of the work, like a
Mm-hmm.
premise in the sense that let's make that assumption and then work with it, and
Right.
see where that leads, because we don't know. Like, intuition isn't measurable in a sense that you plug in some
It's
neurological things, and
source.
then
And here it comes.
not yet.
Here's your dose.
Yeah, who knows? Exactly, not yet. So with everybody is born with intuition, and I think just depending on in which sort of environment you grow up, you might just you be encouraged to use it, because we have that as well. And then you
Mm-hmm.
just grow up and you use it, and you sort of know, because
Mm-hmm.
figure it out on your own. But otherwise, yeah, you can unlearn the it's not real. That
Right.
can
Like
be
you said
unlearned.
earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, because how
Mm-hmm.
we are learning through experiences. So, you start using intuitive techniques, and then you start following it, and you see the results. And, you
Mm-hmm.
initially you probably won't get it right every time, as with
No, you
everything
won't.
that's new that you're
Right.
learning. But then as
Yes.
experience builds, you learn from that, and then you
Yeah.
start going with it more and more. Yes. And it
Absolutely.
was also true what you said, it can be trained. But what can be trained isn't so much intuition itself as
Mm.
the ability to actually recognize it for what it
Mm-hmm.
is and distinguish it. Because intuition isn't, for most people, it's not a voice. Like, it's not
It's not a
verbal.
voice.
It's not
Right.
verbal. It's not like words. It very
Mm.
often it speaks in imagery and in bodily sensations. And I'm
Mm.
saying very often because it differs from person to person. Everybody can learn all the intuitive channels, but
Yeah.
very often people find themselves that they have one that is really dominant. For me, it's visual. To me, it arrives in pictures, quite literally. I
Yes.
don't want to say visions, because it's more
That's
fluff,
a little bit different. And
right?
it's I concur, and those who know would probably I didn't know that's what it's called. That it was my intuition, but I know I get pictures, like you said, not a lot of words, and then I forget somebody did another word, but I can experience. Sometimes I'm experiencing things and I'm like, that's not me. That's coming from them. It's in my
Yeah,
body.
yeah.
So I'm like, okay. And then I would say, just by way, just not to spook anybody out, but are you experiencing this? Because I'm like, that's not mine.
Mm,
That's not mine. That's not my, what I'm feeling, it's not mine. And
yeah,
then sometimes they're not even near, but I have a vision and then I have a physical
yeah.
feeling. So pretty interesting. One of the things high achievers suffer with, Lena, is trust.
Mm.
Why do we struggle with that? And let's, for goodness sake, trusting our own intuition.
So why do we struggle with trust? Because it's an unknown, because we don't know until after.
And we like the
Yeah, we like
predictable.
certainty. We like
Yeah,
certainty. Not like, give
exactly.
me the facts.
1 + 1 = 2. The math has to math.
Yeah. Should I do
Or is
A
it
or
real?
B? Give me all
Yeah.
the variables so I can decide, but we don't have them all. It's like sometimes it's easy,
Yes.
but this is the consequences of A, this is the consequences of B, and then it's sort of easy, right? You don't need
Right.
much intuition for that, right?
Right.
You
And
don't
that's
know
easy to
when
learn.
there's stuff that you like data you can't access yet. And by data, I mean really practical. What will
Yes.
happen if I go down this path? You just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so for that, intuition can be really useful too, because what it is actually, it's intuitive information is you are getting yourself access, you're accessing a field of information that exists. Like what you just said, with feeling another person, that person exists, right? Something's going on with them. And what you are doing, you're actively tuning into them. Not actively. In your example,
In our sense.
passively,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
happens. But
Yeah.
where does it come from? You're not pulling it out of thin air.
No.
You're
It's a
simply
reality.
like you're being an antenna and you're attuning yourself to that
Yeah.
station, which is that person
Yes.
in your example.
Right. And I realized that it might be subconsciously happening because it doesn't happen if you don't want it to, I guess I would say. I don't know if that's correct, but there were times when I was getting these images and I would literally get data. Like I'd
Mhm.
go into sometimes in movies, I describe it like when we were watching, and I always go back to Wakanda because that's the most recent I probably watched. And they pull up this screen, Wakanda Forever, and there was data in front of them. I would literally go by people, go into a room, and I'm this data. I'm seeing flashes of their childhood. I'm seeing
Yeah.
things that, may have happened. And then I'm able to just reveal it. And they're like, how did you know that? And I'm like, I just know. And then I got brave enough to share when I do. And it's still, we call it a gift. I still have that ability. And I've learned to tame it because it was very tiring because I would experience it sometimes.
Yeah. And I actually believe like people can learn that. It's like you do
Mm.
it naturally. See, that's an example of somebody who sort of notices it. And at a certain point you went, well, let me follow this. Not you,
Mhm.
you weren't dismissing it.
Right. I
And a
was
lot of people
safely
do.
saying this is not safe for me to have all this data popping
Yes.
up everywhere and
Yeah.
overwhelming me physically and making me feel tired and drained.
Yeah, exactly. And I know people who in that situation they shut down because they don't know what to do with it. They
Right.
don't know what it is, it scares them, you know. But on the other side, you can also learn. You can learn to do that.
Tap in. It's like turning the volume down, turning it up when you need to hear it. And when
Yeah.
you don't need to hear it, you can turn it. It's still there.
Yeah.
The frequency is still connected. You're just not tapped in and can hear it, feel it, whatever. And that's how I express it for me. And there are times I could just sit quietly and I welcome the information for when I need it. And I'm good. And that is me, maybe the last 10, 15 years. But
Mm.
before, it was just wild data. I was like, I was tired. I just wanted to sleep. I felt fatigue. I couldn't turn it off. And it's like, no, you can. You can
Yeah.
turn it off. Wow. So this part here in your work that you talk about, because this is huge. When I introduced this episode, I talked about procrastination. This is where I had to lean in because I love it. And I said, wait a minute. So procrastination might not be only because you're lazy. You said procrastination is often a sign that we're not operating from freedom of choice. There is like a hidden agenda underneath everything. Can you
Yeah.
break that down for us, Lena?
Yeah. So with procrastination, what it is we want to do something and then we find ourselves not doing it. Like
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason that we can't understand. And then we say, oh, I'm procrastinating. And very often that becomes part of a definition of self. If
Right.
you don't do things. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes procrastination is just a way of, how can I say this? Like I'm sometimes or not sometimes, I'm sort of like a very last minute creator. And
That
sometimes
works
it's very
great for me.
functional, right?
It's
It's
functional
functional
for me
because it's
at
very
most times.
focused in that short amount of time. It's like when I run courses, master classes, I usually plan the following session just the day before. Like I don't spend weeks mapping the thing
Not
out because
possible.
I have the skill by now to do it short term, but also otherwise I forget, then I have to go over it again. And
You have to go over it again, and then you completely change it.
yes,
I don't know if you're like
absolutely.
me. I completely change it because I guess for me, I would say spiritually, I'm more tapped in the closer I get. People are signing up, and whatever it is, what the people want to, what the people need to hear, not what I want to say.
Yeah.
I may draft it out weeks in advance, or when I had the idea, this is something I need to do. It's just a rough draft, but I'm really putting it together in a small window just right before because,
Yeah.
and it's always the most effective for me.
Yeah, exactly. So see that's a functional way. And like, I don't know about you, but I personally, I spent years beating myself up of not being more organized, more, like
No,
I understood.
it's your organizational structure. This is what works for
This is
you.
actually
Yeah.
how I operate, and it's very functional. However,
Hmm.
then there's also the procrastination when it's really stuff that I know that I should be doing, and I cognitively see the benefit of it, but I find myself
Hmm.
just not doing it, right? And so very often what is going on in that situation, what I found through coaching people and studying this deeply, because I'm curious, like I want to figure this out.
Exactly.
It's like, why is
Doubt.
this happening?
Yeah.
So what I found is what we have running in those situations, we usually have like a parallel narrative, like a parallel reality running.
Mm.
And it is something where it's when we're using should, I can see this and I should be doing this, but I'm
Mm.
not. And I don't
Mhm.
understand why. So when a should is involved, it means that we are acting out of obligation.
Mhm.
And it's this, if you just imagine, when somebody tells you you have to do this, do you really want to do it? No,
Nope.
right?
No one does.
It's like, it's teenagers, when they fall in love and the other doesn't really respond.
Yes.
That's well, you have to love me, it's like you
Yeah.
don't. It's not something that anything that we approach. This is a bit of a simplified explanation. Right? It can go layers and layers deeper into why that happens. Is we don't want to do it anymore, and then there's an inner conflict because I know I should, and a part of me also might want to do this, but if
Yes.
there is a sense of obligation, it's you
The alignment is missing.
you're not. You have these contrasting things going on, and that's why
Yes.
sometimes you find yourself sort of oscillating like on a seesaw, right? You go towards
Yeah.
it, or rather like a swing. You go towards it a little bit, but then there's the other impulse that pulls you away, and you keep going back and forth, and then
Forth.
wondering why I'm not going anywhere, right?
Exactly.
And using like a very practical example, say in business,
Hmm.
somebody says, well, I can see how it would be functional and helpful if I marketed this more
Right.
thoroughly, more in advance, tell more people about it. And then you find yourself just not doing it. And it's like, what am I doing here? And then, more thoughts come in, I'm not good at this and I might just give it up. But, but wherever you go,
Right. Right.
your head with your mind in that moment. But what often happens is that, especially in business, we have these things like we want to make money. It's a business, right? It's not a hobby.
Right.
So it involves
Right.
making money.
Money. Yep.
But if I come from that perspective, like this must make me money, then I have to sign up more people. Can you see the
Mm.
obligation in that?
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So there is an innate, like this natural mechanism that then goes, well,
I don't want to.
why do I have to?
Exactly. Exactly. I don't have to do anything.
I don't have to do anything. I want to
All
do
I
what I
want to do
want.
is talk to the people. I want to coach them. I don't want to sign anyone up. I don't
Yeah,
want to do all these
yeah,
other things,
yeah.
right?
But the moment you get yourself out the obligation, and actually my coaching, like starting businesses, I usually recommend that they have another income. Where people tell me, well,
Great.
but I don't want to go get, an office job because I've got this creative business idea. It's like, yeah, great. But if you
You're
put
gonna have
too
to
much
fund it.
weight on it, if you put too much weight on it, people they will feel it that you
Yes.
need them.
And you're acting out of scarcity instead of
Yes.
abundance. It's a
Yeah.
vibrational experience that you're
Yeah.
you're actually like If I don't, everything is riding on me having 20 people show up. And the desperate, the desperacy or how you're desperate, they're like, you're actually, you're in fear. So that's repelling. It's not even, it's so different because you're not coming from a place of abundance. Whereas if when
Yeah,
I show up thinking, I am going to do this and I am going to experience this with as many people as I can reach, knowing that my basic needs are met. And then also you have money to invest. I tell people use your job or your U2s or your paid employment as a way to fund your vision, your
yeah,
business dream.
yeah. And see, this, what you just said, I think this is really important, like this abundance mindset and scarcity mindset. It
Mhm.
is true. It's also not very specific,
It is, right?
And
It's
I'm
not
saying because,
quantum.
it's like, how do I get into an abundance mindset? And then doing affirmations, which, by the way, I don't think help really. Or
It's
most
just
affirm
you're just talking over the voice in your head, and then when you stop talking, it starts speaking again and it gets louder.
exactly. But what it is, when we say it's a scarcity mindset, what we're actually doing is we are having a hidden agenda. We are telling the person, we are not telling them, look, this is great. Do you want this? Like, I want to share this with you. That makes them okay to say no because people have a
Exactly.
free
Now
will.
you're not telling them they should. Now you're not telling them they
Exactly.
should.
But
Right.
otherwise, if I am, let's say, coming from scarcity, what I'm telling them, please buy from me so I can make a living.
What's in it for them?
And
Energetically,
nothing,
it's like
right? Like, because that's what I'm telling them. I'm sort of pretending I'm selling them something nice, but
it's
underneath what I'm
beneficial.
actually telling them energetically
I
is
need to make my
I want
$1,000,000.
you to pay for this or more. If it's not just about money, what is running deeper is I want you to make me feel significant. I want you to make me
Yes,
feel
yes.
valid. Because when we speak of success, success very often is when we aspire to success for its own sake.
Someone
Very
else
often
measures.
we actually want to not feel a failure,
Insignificant.
significant, or whatever your word is,
Yes.
or some
Yes.
variation.
And I tell everyone, like when someone says, oh yeah, I want to make $1,000,000. I want to do this. I'm like, okay, so what's your why? Why do you want to do it? I've
Mm,
always wanted to do it. Okay. Why have you always wanted to do it? Ever since I was a kid. What is that? What is that you seek within $1,000,000? And a lot of people can't tell you. And not
mm.
saying that people shouldn't want $1,000,000,
Yeah,
but
it's a
I
great thing to
honestly
want.
believe if you exactly if you don't have a why, it will come and it will go very quickly and you'd be like, "So I made $1,000,000 and that was it?" Your soul is still searching. So my thing is figure out what it is that you truly desire and then realize that most of what's outside of you, you're still seeking a feeling of some sort. So just know that because chances are nothing is going to fix that. And you're still going to need to go do that job. I mean, just start earlier or not. It's your journey. Choose. I'm just giving you my 2 cents, to add to the your millions that you want. Is that hey, you're still gonna want to fix that. How many and I always talk about Will Smith, he sat there. He's like, once you figured out buying everything you can possibly buy, go anywhere and everywhere you can possibly go and sleep with anyone you possibly want to sleep with. You're sitting in the mirror, he says, full frontal, thinking, my life has to mean more than this. And I mean, I'm just one that tries to learn from other people's mistakes and
Yeah.
mine and not just mine. So I don't have to make them all and I can use up the time I'm given, with a little bit. Again, we like that concrete
Mhm.
this or that. So I guess I try to go for it as much as I can. But tell us what your thoughts are about that inner yearning and understanding what it is you truly want. So when you do get up and offer someone your product or service, it's connected to something that will really bring you as well as them
Mhm.
good and abundance.
Yeah. If it's something that you really truly desire, then it will then it will lead you to that feeling because what we actually want to crave, we want to, what most of us most humans want to feel is actually it's freedom and love. Right. Freedom,
Mm,
love, fulfillment. Those are like our basics, that we would love.
and peace.
And
Yeah.
peace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So going into what what I have seen over time is that most people know what they want, what they truly desire. Most people also don't fully admit their own desires to
Mm,
themselves because they believe they can't have them.
exactly.
And then there's, this mechanisms like I better not wish for that, because I can't have it. And, you try to avoid disappointment. Yeah, that's so sometimes we've also been actively told we shouldn't go for that, like classic,
Exactly.
you know,
Classic.
depending on which generation you grew up in. And,
Yes.
my
We were
parents,
encouraged to not take risk at all. Play it safe.
yeah, not take risk, but also, sometimes from it's just common sense also. My parents are post-war, born at the end of World War II in Europe. And
Mm,
for them, it was just very obvious, you're the child, like I'm artistically gifted, I'm also very rationally, logically gifted. And it was just the most caring thing that they could do for me to push me
yes.
into something like business economics, right? Rather than
Yes.
pursue a career in the arts.
Yes.
And that's just for them, it was a really good thing. And it was for me
Yes.
as well,
And
it's
it
just
was for
I
you,
went,
especially in the era we were in. Like that was solid. Like it was get an education, save your money, sort of, make sure you're never without guard and don't,
yeah,
end up in a situation of lack. So
yeah,
it was good and it still is. But what I've seen is many people that are my age, because I'm in my 40s and a little bit older, because of that, that is the reason we live and breathe, not realizing the reason there's all these other reasons like you
yeah,
mentioned, peace, joy, love, just freedom. And it's we get to a lot of people get to the end of their lives and they're like, I wish I'd done more. And
yeah.
some of them are here telling us, and that's why I love having these conversations because I'm pretty sure so many people in their 60s now, they talk about, hey, you know what, go out there, live a
Yeah.
little. I remember standing in the store looking at a slice of carrot cake, and an older gentleman came up. He said, young lady, I'm going to say something to you. Get the cake. He said, because he said, you'll get old and you'll get old like me one day and cake will not be an option.
Yes,
Just eat the cake.
just love
And
it.
I was, I'm in my 40s now and I hear him because a piece of cake just puts me in another alternate universe of hot flashes and misery. So I really eat a little piece of cake now, very rare, but I would never forget. This is about 20 years ago. And he was
Mm,
right. And I thought about it, and I said, how many things am I not doing that later on? I'm probably going to wish I did.
mm.
And so I make sure whatever I'm a part of, I'm experiencing freedom and joy. I tell people I work a lot, but I'm enjoying it because
Yeah,
it's not things I should do. They're
yeah,
things that I've chosen to do. I
yeah,
want to be a part of.
yeah,
And so a little bit like you, my soul really is like yours. I just want to live all over the world. And that's what I keep preparing myself for. I have to work and set the stage for it, but I am working at it because I'm not attracted to a mansion. I'm attracted to the skies and the ocean and the trees and the flowers and landscape. So that's my joy. Maybe for someone having a mansion that they can put all these prized things in is what makes them fulfilled. And I
yeah,
am not judgmental of it. But for me, I'll sleep in
yeah,
a hammock under a tree in Zimbabwe if you let me.
yeah, yeah. Wow.
And then I might want to go to a nice cushy hotel a few days later, but that's where my
Yeah,
mind is.
yeah.
Yeah.
And see, when you've defined something like that, let's call it a goal, right? For
Hmm.
lack of a better word, right?
Right,
And a
right.
goal, and you want it, and then the thing is, you have some steps in your head that are sort of obvious to do, right? Like if sitting under a tree in Zimbabwe is really the experience that you want to have, one obvious thing is you're somehow going to have to get yourself to Zimbabwe. That's like pretty
Otherwise,
obvious.
it's just going to be a make
But, it,
believe.
but it's something like there's a journey, like a physical journey also involved.
Yeah, connecting with people in
And then
Zimbabwe.
You might also go, well, I have to make the money in order to get there, right? Because you assume it's going to take money, I'm going to have to pay for things. And this is when intuition comes in. When you go intuitively and through these practices, you might actually get those little nudges for things where you're like, what's this got to do with it? Right?
Anything, yeah?
It's completely unrelated. But because
Yeah.
you're tapping into a field of information that goes beyond of what, you can cognitively process, you are actually tapping into that field of information that is giving you shortcuts. Because what if you're sitting under a tree in Zimbabwe could come about in a way that you would never even be able to think of?
Fathom.
No,
I can't
maybe it's a
fathom. Yeah?
particular conversation in a cafe that you need to have with somebody that is from there, that, really is inspired by you and invites you to, I don't know, do some
All
work
expense
there.
paid
And
to go
you're
do some
like,
work.
what? Right? It's actually, and that's when you can get, when you tune in actively and, make a practice out of it, you can get information like, go have a coffee in that cafe. And you're just like, why? Right? And this is where then the trust question comes in, which we touched on
Yes.
before. I find most people never fully trust their intuition. It's more like a choice of actively going, okay, this is what I got, so I'm just going to follow it. Because the thing is, you won't know. You won't know until afterwards. And sometimes even afterwards, it still doesn't make sense. But it might have. I just assume that if I got it, it's valid. And then I assume it's setting off some sort of domino effect, and I don't need to know what it is. I'm just assuming this is, I got it, I do it. And it's a bit like a relationship. I find intuition, when followed, gives you more. It becomes clearer. It's like, there she goes.
There it is. There it is.
I'm telling you, so
My
let's
goodness.
most of it. That's great. It's great.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, because why would you talk to somebody who's not listening?
Exactly.
It becomes pointless, right? Like after one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's so true when you think of it. Why would I talk to someone who's not listening when it's you? Oh my goodness. So, Lena, we are going to move our listeners and viewers over to part 2 of this conversation. Disruptors, listen, you are tuned into Mindset Mastery Moments, and I encourage you to skip over to the next one and pick up right where we left off here with Lena. And we are talking spirituality and business, the paradox, and you don't want to miss it. We'll see you right over there.